Yo, hello everybody. Mike Mills with Verity Mortgage here. Today is opening day, so we may not have a lot of people watching this live today, but we'll do the best we can. If you ever need a mortgage, pre-approval, you're looking to buy or sell your house, please give me a call. Otherwise, let's move on to the show. We won't do too many boring stuff related to commercials. So today, I'm welcoming a good friend of mine and a guy that's done a lot of work for us in the past that I really think is an awesome human being. And that's Mr. Aaron Robertson with All Integrity Contracting.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you, Mike, for having me here today just to chat it up and talk about what's going on.
Yes, absolutely, man. I'm glad you came in. I wanted to bring you in. So just a little background on how I know Aaron. So we met, I don't know, it's been a couple of years now that we got to know each other. And we were doing, my wife and I did a show for, it's not HGTV, Magnolia Network, something what it was called. And we were looking for a contractor. And the story of this is we had reached out to one group to do the work for us in this remodel on a house that we bought in Cedar Creek Lake and for this show. And we had gotten the show booked several weeks or several months in advance, really, and had reached out to an initial contractor we got referred to give us a bid. And the bid took forever. There was dragging their feet on how much this was going to be and how much that was going to be. And it took a really long time to get the bid in. And we got to the point to where we were getting close to having to start filming the show. And we had no idea what the cost was going to be or, what they were going to, when they could start the work and what all was going to be involved. And then about a week before we were supposed to start shooting, we got the bid, and it was insane to say the least on what they were charging. Now, granted, there's always a little bit of sticker shock whenever you get, a lot of remodel work done and, you're looking to try to figure out because, everybody kind of starts, Aaron probably knows this. We all start up here with all these ideas on what we want to do. And then when the bill actually shows up, then we kind of start knocking that down a little bit because everybody's eyes are bigger than their stomach or their wallets, and that, as the case may be. But, so I reached out to a friend of mine to ask for another referral if anybody knew of someone that did great work. And she gave me Aaron's contact information. And within a week, Aaron and his partner, Kyle, had come out and bid the house. So they went out, they looked at it, they measured everything, and then they went out and sent us a bid within like 5 days. And it was about half of what the other company was going to charge us. So it was zero doubt in my mind, not to mention the person that referred him to me, somebody I trust a lot and, is very, very locked in on this kind of stuff. So they came out, they did a fantastic job on the property. They knocked everything out exactly on budget, maybe even a little bit less than what we thought it was going to be based off the work that we had initially requested. We added a few things to it, but for the most part, and we've been thrilled with them ever since. I've referred them to my sister, my mom, everybody I could possibly think of, because I think his group, they do such a fantastic job. And I think that's a really, really hard thing to find whenever you're dealing with contractors these days. So that's why I brought him in, because I really wanted to kind of promote his business and, let everybody know what he does. And then also have some questions for him on what homeowners, and, we do this show primarily gauged towards realtors on what to look for when you're trying to buy a house, what kind of costs could be involved in different types of repairs and all that kind of stuff. So that's just a long-winded way of saying I appreciate you coming in, and we can get rolling on this. So first off, I want to know, how did you even get into doing all this to begin with? Where did you start off?
Well, I kind of had to grow up a little faster than most people.
Okay.
When I was 15, I didn't necessarily have the greatest home life or home experience.
Okay.
So for me, I wanted to work. I wanted to get free. I wanted to go forward. I wanted my own money, my own things. I wanted that freedom, that I didn't necessarily get to experience growing up. And
Right.
So when I was 15, I kind of packed my bags and took off.
There you go.
Not necessarily the best thing to ever happen, but it has turned out quite amazing.
Okay.
I would say that, moving out at such a young age, you get thrown into life really fast. So bills start racking up quick. Like I didn't have a car, so I was working. I finally bought a car, and then had to pay for phone, insurance, groceries, stuff like that. So I really had to learn quick how to work. And at the time, being young, I didn't have a degree to work with, so the first thing I could do was labor jobs.
Okay.
And starting off doing labor jobs, I always had a different mindset. I loved asking questions. I loved to learn. So there wasn't ever a job that I got that I didn't immediately rise to the top in,
Okay.
because that's my personality. Like, I want to strive in whatever I do. And so being young, I got in these jobs and I didn't mind doing the small work or the dirty work.
Right.
But while I was doing that, I was always keeping one eye on the leaders, the people that were above me, and I was asking questions and, keeping their workstations clean. So getting into this work just started out me just trying to provide for myself. And from there, and just being willing to learn, never trying to be bigger than what I was.
Yeah.
Just being, having an open mind, asking questions. It has led me to this place now where I've gotten to learn over the years how to run a company, how to do the work, how to bid the jobs, how to be successful in what we're doing. And it all just started, you know, getting out young, learning it, but being open minded.
Right.
You know,
So a lot of trial and error, I would imagine. Yes.
that's how. Honestly, I don't know if there is a contractor that hasn't learned it,
Right.
not trial and error.
Right.
So
Right. When did you? How long did you do it before you decided that you were ready to kind of step out on your own and start trying to do some stuff by yourself?
So I moved here. I'm from Louisiana. For anyone that's watching, I didn't know, and I moved here for college.
Okay.
I'm actually, in my family, the only person that really got to go to college. So I was actually the first person to graduate high school as well.
Oh wow.
So it's a huge deal. I
Yeah.
didn't know anything about college or
Yeah.
really much of anything.
You had to figure it
So
out all on your own.
I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I moved here. I just kind of felt an urge in my heart to come here to Texas to this school that I had found. And so I started going there, and I was working.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Christ for the Nations Bible College in
Okay.
Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And so I was going there, and after the first year of working there, I was working valet, parking cars and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I was there 3 months, and within that 3 months, I was already a manager.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, it's part of my personality. But
Well, it's amazing how we were just talking about this before we went on, because you were talking about trying to add people and going back to just doing you and your partner, but there's not a ton of people these days that really want to work real hard.
for sure.
There are plenty of people out there that do,
Mhm.
but the vast majority probably are looking for shortcuts. And when you take the type of personality that you have, and that you came from nothing essentially, right? And had to struggle the whole way through. So every opportunity that you got to make a little bit of money, scratch a little bit of something together, and kind of move yourself up the ladder, you took full advantage of it.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
it doesn't take very long, when you show up to a situation and everybody else is kind of meh, as they call it, or mid, as the kids call it these days. And then you show up and you're like, well, I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that, and I'll do that. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we want to get this guy in charge of other people because we want
Sure.
everybody else to permeate through that, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it doesn't even take half an effort.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad now in our day and age that so many people want handouts
Yeah.
and nobody wants to work for anything, and it's really sad.
Yeah.
I hate to see it because I love working.
Yeah.
I love working hard. It's like the accomplishment you get when you defeated something that most people can, or something you thought you couldn't.
Yeah.
And I just really enjoy that. But yeah, so I started there, and it just really wasn't working out. It's hard to find good workers, but it's also hard to find good leadership to work under.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they were treating me pretty poorly.
Okay.
They made me manager, but gave me
All the responsibility in the
all the
world and very
responsibility
low more money.
and no money.
No, yeah, they just gave you a title.
So
hey,
what-
congratulations, you're in charge of everybody,
Yeah.
but you're still making the same amount of money.
So I went up there and I was like, look, I'm closing, I'm opening, I'm running your team. And I was like, I deserve a manager's salary, like
Yeah.
a manager's pay. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, we can give you $1 more. And I said, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
Because, if I'm not going to be valued there, then
Yeah.
my hard work there's no point in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so from there, I got an opportunity because Kevin was actually working.
Kevin, I said Kyle earlier.
Oh, that's all
sorry.
right. Kevin, my business partner now, was actually working with another guy that is a good friend of mine who runs a construction company. And he was like, hey man, we're working with this guy. He's been good to us. He's got good work. And so I was like, That's right up my alley. Like,
Yeah.
cause when I moved here, I didn't know anybody. So
Right.
like, I didn't have the opportunity to just go into construction or
You
go
didn't have a
into
bunch
that
of
stuff.
connections that
I
you
had
could
no
just
connections.
yeah.
And so I started working for this guy, and like again, I moved up the ladder really fast.
Yeah.
I was giving bids, meeting with the clients, picking up the materials, running the crews, and so I worked for him for about 3.5, 4 years of being in Texas, and that's where I really got my trial and error stage. I got to learn by being under somebody else's leadership
Mhm.
how to run a business,
Yeah.
like how to do the bids, how to, you know, go and sell the job, how
Right.
to time management, money management, and he's a good friend of mine. We butted heads a lot. Not gonna lie,
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's
we
not unusual. I mean,
yeah,
that happens. Yeah, for sure.
and but it worked out
But you
because
learned a lot from him,
I
huh?
got to learn a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't always the best, but if you have a learning mentality,
Yeah.
then no matter what situation you're in,
Yeah.
whether good or bad, you're gonna be learning something.
Well, sometimes you learn how to do stuff,
Hmm.
and sometimes you learn how not to do stuff,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. So I got to learn a lot. And I'm very thankful for it. Looking back, even though sometimes it was harder than other times,
Sure.
I'm thankful for, you know, I wouldn't have the company now
Yeah.
if I didn't go through and learn then how to do it.
Now,
So
when you met your wife, had you already started your company, or was that before?
I actually met my wife in college. For everyone watching, I play acoustic guitar and I sing.
Okay.
And
I don't think I knew that, really?
yeah,
Okay.
and she actually sings.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were singing at our school, and we got paired together, and we were working on some music, and
Do you
we were
still sing in
playing.
church and stuff, or do you have, like, a band,
I did
or
for a while. I
yeah?
think once we had our daughter, she did not want to be in the nursery, so she made it really hard to go.
I gotcha.
Hollering and screaming,
Right,
and
right.
you drop her off, and within 5 minutes you're picking her back up. Like
Right,
they
right.
couldn't handle her. We are attending church right now. I kind of stepped back from leading and singing and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But we actually met at school,
Okay.
and then we started dating, and just kind of kicked off from there. Both of our passions for singing, and then that led us to getting to know each other, and then
Right.
moving forward. I didn't start my company till after we had gotten married and had our child.
Okay.
Uh, I have a little girl, and she's hard headed, but very beautiful and
I
very
is
smart.
that because she's like you, or is that because she's like your wife?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yes. I think I probably married the girl version of myself.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that definitely then
But
she got an ultra dose of hard-headedness
yeah,
then?
she
Yes?
did.
Okay.
But
So how did that get taken at home when you go to your wife and you say, "Okay, babe, I've been working, making money steady, but now I'm gonna go off on my own. So now the money isn't guaranteed anymore. Now I gotta go get the jobs." How'd that go over?
well, my wife's always in full support. I think I'm hardest on myself
Okay.
because whenever you are single and you're working, there's not a ton of risk other than paying bills.
Right.
But when you have a family, you could be risking everything
Right.
because you're jumping into the unknown saying, I want to move forward. I want better for my family. I want a better future. I want to be able to pay for college,
Yeah.
pay for braces,
Yeah.
be able to have a decent life without, because I didn't grow up rich. I grew up, pretty on the downside of being poor
Yeah.
and just not having anything and seeing my parents slave day and night just to try and to give us something,
Yeah. But that's
So
probably where I mean, I'm sure that's definitely where you got your work ethic from because
yeah,
you're like, "Hey, look, I don't have any other choice,
yeah,
right?"
absolutely.
There's no other options for you. You have to bust your ass in order to make things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But yeah, I was, at the point in that previous job where I had outgrown it to a point where it's like, okay, there's got to be another step
Yeah.
because I can't stay here or I won't continue to grow.
Right.
So I was at that turning point where it was like I need to make a decision.
Mhm.
And at this point, my business partner Kevin, he had a business in Massachusetts. They were running a drywall company.
Okay, so he'd already had his own
He
business
had
then.
he had started one about a year and a half or 2 years before I did.
Okay.
And we were talking one day and he was like, "Man, I'm really thinking about moving back to Texas." And I was like, "Well, I'm thinking about starting a company." And he was like, "Dude, I would love to do that."
Yeah.
Because we're like, it'd be hard once you've worked for yourself to go back working for somebody else
Yeah.
and being underneath that.
It's very hard.
It's very
Yes.
challenging.
Yes.
And some circumstances, you might have to, and that's
Yeah.
not a big deal. But
Right.
if you don't have to,
Right.
he was like, dude, I'm down. I was
Freedom,
like,
freedom and autonomy are big, big
yeah,
things. If you have the time to go, do what you want when you want, that makes
yes,
life much more tolerable in many
for
cases.
sure. But I was like, you know, I was toying with it. We had just had our baby girl.
Mhm.
We were freshly, a year into marriage, and I was like, man, it's such a big risk because I know that I have work with this guy, but if I start, I don't know if I'm going to have any.
Right.
And it's like you have the bills and some of the debt that was already acquired, and it was a huge leap of faith.
Yeah.
And I said, you just have to do it.
Right.
And we did it, and it worked out great. Before Kevin even moved to Texas, we were booked out 4 months
Wow.
before our company even started.
That's awesome.
So it was really cool.
Well, I'm not shocked by that just because, just as another note, the thing that blew me away mostly when it came to you and and Kevin and y'all's, not only just your work ethic, but just the way you structured everything is, it's a difficult thing to find, especially in the world of, contract labor of any kind, plumbers, electricians, any kind of trades for the most part. And when it comes to construction work, you know, people are really good at trades. They're really good at being an electrician. They're really good at being a plumber. They're really good at this, but they're not really good at being business people.
For sure.
And that's what separates a successful tradesman operating his own business from somebody else who there might be better electricians out there, there might be better plumbers out there, but if you can't communicate timelines, if you can't set expectations up front of what costs would be involved in. One of the things that I really appreciated about you guys when you came out and did any bids that you've ever done for us is you would say things along the lines of, okay, well, here's what this is, and this will cost this, and this will cost this. But if we get into this, and there's another issue, then we might have additional costs. Are you guys okay with that? And it's the expectation, generally speaking, is people know that, like they know that there could be additional stuff, but just saying it out loud and making it to where, we talked about this, like, oh yeah, we sure did. It leaves the gap away for having any surprises, right? There's nothing that comes up where you're like, man, I didn't know. It's like, well, I mean, we didn't know how much, we didn't know what, but you knew that there could be something, right? And I had a previous experience with somebody where we were doing a job and there was additional work that kind of, as we were going through the job, was either brought up and or it was kind of one of those things where, hey, notice you need this thing over here, do you want us to do that? Yeah, sure, that'd be great, right? And take responsibility myself on that of not getting more details. Okay, well, what's it going to cost, how long is it going to take, all that kind of stuff. I didn't ask those questions, right? But what I appreciate about you guys is when we would say something like that, because homeowners do that, right? Oh, it'd be cool if we could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would say, yeah, we can absolutely do that. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this. It's going to cost extra though.
Yeah.
And here's what it's going to cost. And then we could say, oh yeah, we want to do that, or maybe not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just presenting that stuff up front and making sure that everybody involved understood that there's additional costs involved and you're being very clear and direct about it makes such a world of difference when it comes to doing the job that you do, especially from the customer's point of view, right?
Yeah.
And not only that, the other thing that I thought was amazing, which the Jen who obviously referred you to us, had told me, which I was blown away by, is, she's like, if they say they're going to be there at 8:00 in the morning, they're there at 8:00 in the morning. And if they say they're going to be done by 3, they're done by 3. And then I would get pictures every day. This is what we did today. This is what we did today. This is what we did today. So it's almost like every day you're kind of saying, here's what we did, here's how we did it, and we're done. And as a homeowner and as somebody paying for that service, just having that peace of mind of knowing that the work is progressing. And even if you would have a day where, like, man, we were trying to get to this, but we just didn't have time because this other thing came up, that level of communication is so lacking in your industry as a whole that it makes guys like you that come along with, you and Kevin, just such a breath of fresh air, because I have complete faith and trust, and I don't have to worry about it anymore, because if I need something done, I just call you and you say, what? And I'm like, yeah, I know you got this. I'm not even worried about you at all. So, that's what has really separated you in my mind away from anybody else that I've ever dealt with in the past.
And it's the easiest part about our job.
Yeah.
But for some reason in our industry, it's the thing that you find the least.
It is.
Sending a text saying, hey, we're here. Hey, we're leaving. Hey,
Yes.
this is what's going on. It's so easy. It takes half a second to do that.
Right.
But I do believe that's what sets us apart.
It does.
Because, even meeting you guys, it was because of a failed contractor that she had. And through that and knowing you guys and then getting, references from y'all booked us out a year
Yeah.
just from the people that y'all knew. Like
Yeah.
we had jobs after jobs after jobs just
Yeah.
from people that y'all knew.
Yep.
And if we would have been bad in our communication or bad at what we did after, that guy that messed up, he missed y'all and all the connections that y'all had.
Yeah.
But because we, try to strive and our company name, having integrity in everything that we do.
Yeah.
We got the benefits of that.
Yeah.
Because like it sucks for them and I hate that for them.
Yeah.
But I am thankful that, we got the opportunity because it's so easy. Like I can't even think of a job where we've went into it and we've had to go to the homeowner and say, look, we're going to have to add thousands of dollars because we found this.
Right.
Because if you've done this long enough,
yeah,
probably about 90% of the time going into something, you're going to know what you could find.
Right.
Like if there was water or if there was something like that, hey, I could find mold or I could find rotted subfloor.
Yeah.
I might have to change that out. And like you were saying, I want you to be aware of that.
Yeah.
So it's really just about going in, laying out the expectations, talking with the homeowner about their expectations, and then just being, we're over communicative. We lay it out there 4 or 5 times a day. And then every day before I leave a house, I bring in the homeowners. I say, look, this is where we are.
Yep.
This is what's next. And I never leave surprises.
Yeah.
And, I really enjoy that part. I like the satisfaction of knowing that the homeowner feels safe, that I have had multiple homeowners give me the keys to their house, tell me I could spend the night.
Yes.
Like
Us
it doesn't,
included. Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like they trust us so much that they would leave their wallet sitting on the counter with money falling out of it. I'd never touch it.
Right.
Yes.
No, I mean, that was the thing because what happens is people have they have fear of situations that they don't understand, right? And so when you go into in a situation, because we're not, I don't know how to fix a subfloor, how to reinstall drywall, what possible plumbing issues. I have no idea, right? So that's a lack of knowledge on my part, which leads to uncertainty and fear, and that's normal. I mean, I deal with that in my business every day.
Yeah.
People do mortgages maybe 3 or 4 times in their life, so they just don't have a certain level of understanding and trust of what the process looks like. And so the more I communicate how it works and the more I'm very detailed about every little step of the process, the easier and more at ease that these people feel. And it's the same exact thing. It's just in a different industry. So that alone has set you guys so far apart from everybody else, which is why you continue to stay busy, because people feel secure. So when anybody ever says, because again, this has happened multiple times, we've used multiple contractors over the years, have lots of different people. And if someone were to say to me before you guys came along, if someone were to say, hey, do you have somebody that you would recommend as a contractor? I'd be like, I mean, I've used some, but this one was pretty expensive. This one didn't quite get the stuff we wanted done. So I don't know, but you guys show up and I'm like, yo, yeah, absolutely. Call these guys. Like they're the best. No doubt. And just having people on your side that are advocates for you because of the level of integrity that you guys do carry, it's going to make you incredibly successful over the rest of your career. And, we had talked about you trying to expand and do different things. And, you said, look, I'm great with this. Like, I'm happy just working with my partner, doing what we do. And the demand itself will help you increase your revenue over the years because you can charge more for your services. You'll have more jobs available to you. And, you guys are going to be set up for a lot of success for years to come. So, all right, so let's get to the actual work itself. So do you remember what your first job was, like as a company?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
There was a townhouse and it had got water damage through the floor. It flooded, backed up due to some city plumbing issues.
Okay.
And it was this pop and lock MDF type flooring, and we came in and tore it all up, and then we relayed tile throughout the whole thing. So that was our first job, and Kevin was actually coming in the day of our first job, so he couldn't work the first day. So I had to work all by myself. And but we did that, and it took us a little minute to get a groove going and get used to each other and start that. But we both have different specialties. And it matches up perfect because what he's really good at, we're able to separate and tackle different stuff. We don't have to wait for someone to finish. And then, so we got it worked out and down to like to a science on
Right.
what we do, especially when it comes to bathrooms. Because I'm good at different stuff and he's good at other stuff, so it just works out.
What's the balance? What do you do? What does he do?
I would say I'm good at the tile, installing the plumbing for the showers, the framing and stuff like that. He's really good at finished drywall because he had the drywall company.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
So he could be finishing drywall while I'm laying tile, and then we'll meet at the end and be done at the same time.
Wow.
And then whenever he finishes up first, he's been learning and he's learning fast. He's getting really good. He'll jump on one side of the wall and start tiling that up while I'm doing the other. And so it just works out. We just got it down to
It's a nice little harmony between the two.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think of how many years you've been doing it with the company now? How many years have you had it?
Our company is 2 years.
2 years old.
Yeah, 2 years old.
So, what would you say thus far is the most frequent type of jobs that you've been doing?
Bathrooms. Yes, we get a lot of bathrooms, and we love them because we're so good at them. We knock a full master bath out in 2 weeks, almost no matter the size.
Really?
Almost every single time.
Okay.
Because we have it down to a science.
You've done it so many times.
And we also plan it so we think ahead on everything. We don't go into a job and just start. Right. We say, this is how much we're going to get done today. This is how much we're going to get done tomorrow. And we plan out the entire 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And some days we work slower because we're ahead of schedule. And some days we work faster because we're behind schedule. But we almost always stay on schedule.
Yes.
And but I would say bathrooms because bathrooms bring a lot of value to the home.
Yeah.
And that's where you spend a lot of your time. I don't know about anybody else. I spend a lot of the time in the bathroom. And, whether you're waking up to take a shower, coming home and take a shower, using the bathroom, brushing your teeth, you got kiddos, you're in the bathroom all the time.
Yep.
And you want it to be a comfortable place, something that you enjoy looking at, not something you're trying to hurry up and get out of because it's gross.
Yeah. So if someone's looking to remodel their bathroom, let's say it's a master bathroom, right? What are some things that you run into more often than not that cause either issues or constant things that people don't think about whenever they're doing their bathroom, that you have to say, hey, well, I know you want to do this, but this is really something you got to consider, whether it be location of, particular types of plumbing or where the toilet is versus the, or how you set up closets. Just what do you generally run into when you're doing that?
With bathrooms, that's why I like them so much. There's not a ton to run into.
Okay.
It really just comes down to budget and, the type of remodel you're trying to do.
Gotcha.
We've had bathrooms where the entire structure of the bathroom has been redone. Toilet all the way across the room.
So you gutted it out to the studs.
That
basically
takes going through your concrete stuff, and just tearing all the jackhammering and bringing it all the way around. That gets expensive.
Right.
So it really comes down to just having someone that, knows how to design. Like if you've got something in your head, but you don't necessarily know how to design it, sometimes the design will help save you a lot of money.
Gotcha.
Instead of saying, I would love the toilet over here. I'm like, okay, but that's going to be very expensive.
Right.
But I would say we don't run into a lot of issues, really. I mean, you have a lot of old showers that weren't installed right, where you tear it out and you do find mold because it seeps behind the shower, underneath the pan line or underneath because they didn't do it right. But I enjoy bathrooms because you really don't find a lot.
Do you see that, or do you find, I guess, that when people are asking you to do remodels on those, do they start from a basic structure and then redo the whole thing, or more often than not, are they just kind of upgrading around what they already have?
Like I said, you have different clientele, different levels of, finances that a lot people are working with, and I would say, a lot of times it's just kind of redoing what you got. Like,
Gotcha.
We rip out a lot of jacuzzi tubs. Those are not in anymore.
Right. Nobody likes those.
Nobody wants those. Nobody wants to keep them or clean them. So we rip out a lot of those. And what a lot of people have been doing is they'll put a freestanding tub where that was.
Like a claw foot or whatever they call them.
Just different types. They have, I think the claw foot ones are probably more of a higher class, more expensive.
Gotcha.
But then, they have other freestanding tubs, and whether, if someone wanted, for the listeners, it's easier to do a wall mount faucet for a freestanding tub than it is to do one that's standing in out of the subfloor coming up.
Gotcha.
Because it's harder to run the plumbing, and then once it's in there, it's either, if it's on subfloor, if it's on concrete, it's concreted in, it's in there.
Right.
It's hard to get to. But I would say a lot of times people just kind of they'll make their shower bigger. Like if it's not against two walls. A lot of people want to make it a little bit bigger, and that's easy.
Yeah.
Just tear down that wall, move it out a little bit. But yeah, people are getting rid of the jacuzzis and then making their shower a little bit bigger.
When you're looking at when they do the tile these days, are you finding more and more people are getting to the bigger tiles or the smaller tiles, or what's the? I mean, are you doing a little bit of the design yourself, or for the most part, does the homeowner have a pretty good idea of what they want?
Some of them have an idea. I would say I kind of have a knack for the design part of it. I'll kind of get a feel of what they're into.
Maybe what the rest of their house kind of looks
Yeah,
like, and
and I'm pretty good at just kind of trying to help tie things in. I
Yeah.
give them, they'll be like, "Well, I want this," and I'm like, "Okay, but that might not work here." And
Yeah.
and a lot of times they're very eager to listen because people get on Pinterest and they go on that and they're like, "Oh, this would look great," and then I'm
Do
like,
you love Pinterest? Is that your favorite?
"Yeah." But I think for me, where we kind of stand out is the function. I'm really good at pointing out function.
Right.
So I'm like, you might want that, but the function of it wouldn't be great because of X Y, and but a lot of people, it's I think it's kind of changing. I think we're going through a change right now with colors
Okay.
and design
Mhm.
because when we, even 5 years ago, it was all the subway tiles, and that's still there, but I kind of see it shifting to like more of like some neutral colors and kind of getting out of that a little bit,
Right.
and they're tying in a lot more like greens and blues and just kind of really, I don't know, it's just a different look. It's getting kind of more out of the restaurant look and more of like, you know
I guess probably more like classic, I guess, just not
yeah,
so
yeah, it's
because
like
things go through trends.
classic meets new
Right.
school, so you
Right.
would have like the classic look but also maybe some subway tiles. It's like in the middle right now.
Well, I didn't realize one of the things that, because my wife obviously did a lot of or did most of the design on everything that we've ever done because that's what she likes to do. But, one of the interesting parts of that I learned doing everything was that the size of the tile actually affects the labor involved because the smaller tiles you get, the more labor it takes, and the bigger tiles you get, the less labor it takes.
Yeah, so we've actually had jobs where we'd gone in thinking it was going to be a certain size,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh, we changed our mind. We want to do these little bitty baby tiles." I'm like, "I don't think you understand. Like, none of it lays the same.
Yeah.
Like, if it's little tiny tiles or mosaics or something
Yes.
like that, I'm like the amount of skill that and focus that I had to put into the project to make that flawless.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than just slapping a 12 by 24 tile on the wall and
Right.
running it up. Because
Yeah.
I could tile a tub surround in half a day,
Yes.
12 by 24s.
Your wife's checking in with us here.
Oh, hey, honey. But yeah,
yeah.
so like it's for anyone listening, if they're going into it and you're trying to do small little subway tiles or different stuff like that, the cost is going to be a little bit more because it's way more labor intensive. It takes like I can tile, a standard shower size back wall in half a day,
Mhm.
but it takes me a full day with subway tiles
Right.
because if your wall is not perfectly level, it's hard to build out mortar to make because a lot of these homes in Texas, they're not level. Texas is like the worst for structure and
Yeah.
foundation.
Yep.
But I would say for everyone listening that it's more labor intensive to do smaller tiles.
Right.
It might look good and sometimes it's worth a little bit of extra money.
Yeah.
But if you have a super unlevel house or you're dealing with someone that isn't, they do good tile work but maybe not the best,
Mhm.
maybe sometimes it's better to stay away from like smaller
Well, that's where
tiles.
you run into the issue, I think, is because I think we kind of experienced this one time was, the little tiles now, or for the most part, they come on what is it, like the little sheets,
Yeah,
and they're all
little 12 by 12 sheets.
yeah, and they're all there, but lining up those
Mhm.
sheets to each other to make it look the way
Yeah.
it should, is labor intensive. And if you ever have somebody, if you're like, hey, I want to do it this way, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, no problem. There's almost like you almost need to have like a little bit of a red flag. Like, oh, wait a minute, isn't that going to be pretty tough? You hope that they know what they're doing because when you get in there and you can see it, and especially, part of this is, and this is something I joke with my wife about all the time. Anytime we've ever had work done, she's like, well, this isn't the way I want it. This isn't the way I want it. And I'm like, well, nobody's going to notice. First off,
For sure.
we notice
Mhm.
because it's our house or it's
Yeah.
work that we request or whatever. But the little things of whether it's a VRBO, we're having guest stay, or whether it's someone coming to your house, for the most part, other than just the scope of it, they're not going to really notice the little details. But as a homeowner living in the house every day and seeing it every day, it'll drive you insane.
Well, yeah, that's something I'd like to point out. Like for people listening that are doing remodels, or people that are wanting to flip houses or something, be involved. Because if you don't trust your contractor 1000%, there's going to be things that get passed by you.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, you're going to the end of the project's here. They're ready for the money. You're like, man, I really hate that,
Yeah.
but I guess I'll just have to live with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you were involved throughout that project, you wouldn't have to live with it.
Right.
And that's what we do, because we over communicate all throughout the project. We have like I was saying, every evening before I leave, I get if they're home, the homeowner comes in. I'm like, are you happy with the way things are going?
Yeah.
This is how this is going to work. This is how this has to be laid out. And when it comes to the end of the project, they can't look at me and say, well, I'm unhappy, because I was like, because I showed you the entire process.
Yeah.
And you were never left out.
Right.
And so that's something you got to watch for, with contractors and even as homeowners. Be involved in the project. It's not weird.
Yeah.
I've had people pull up a chair and watch me work.
Yeah.
And it was weird, but who cares?
It's fine. Yeah.
It's your house.
You're not worried about
I don't have to live here.
Yeah.
You do. So
Yeah.
I want you to be happy with it.
Yeah.
And
well, when we did the show, you actually, you and I had to do the bar together. So
yeah.
I was working with you on that one, or just being your unlovely assistant, I guess you could say. So, do you find when you're doing different projects, how often, or what types of projects do you have to get the city involved in with like permitting and that kind of piece? Because that that adds a whole other layer of cost and time to the process. So, how often do you come across that?
For sure. We come across it a good bit. And in Texas, it's a lot different, because you can get away with a lot. And you can also see that people get away with it a lot.
Right.
Kevin talks about it a lot. In Massachusetts, like, you get away with nothing. They're so involved with your home projects that you cannot get away with anything.
Right.
But they have better homes.
Right.
They're running into way less issues.
Right.
Stuff that, a lot of times, if it's permitted, well, for one, make sure your contractors, have insurance. That's definitely if they don't have insurance, then pick somebody else,
right?
Because you never know what could happen.
Yeah.
And you want to be safe. You want to be safe. Have contracts in place. Be extra thorough. There's nothing wrong with being thorough. There's too many horror stories out there.
Yeah. Get it in writing. Make sure you have agreements. Yeah.
So some of these bigger projects where you may have to get the city involved, or sometimes in situations where you don't, make sure things are written out for your safety. If you don't go through the city, I mean, you are required to, but I do know that this is Texas, and anyone can start a remodeling company and get away with anything.
Yep.
But, a lot of times if you're reconstructing the home on like a foundational issue, load bearing stuff, you're supposed to pull permits for that. You're supposed to pull permits for plumbing, electrical, and there's been situations where, if I'm just changing out like a light fixture and stuff like that, like, that's understandable.
Sure.
But if you're going to do like a big remodel where you're redoing a ton of electrical, have a licensed electrician in there for your safety.
Yeah.
Same thing with plumbing. If you're jacking up concrete and moving, when we do big projects, like when it comes to plumbing, like if I'm moving sinks, changing out toilets, big deal.
Yeah.
Like, not a big deal. But like that project where the toilet needed to be moved across the bathroom, we hire a licensed plumber. I don't want that to ever fall back on me.
Right.
Like, nope, licensed plumber did it, not me.
So you'll subcontract out that kind of stuff when it's big work, like things that you guys don't typically do. You'll get a licensed electrician, you'll get a licensed plumber, because those are specific trades when it's a big job. It's one thing to run a pipe, add fixing to something else, but it's a whole other thing to jackhammer up the floor and relocate the sewage line and everything else.
Because those are things that I didn't get the opportunity growing up fast to get.
Yeah.
I would have loved to got, spend X amount of years working underneath a licensed plumber and a licensed electrician, but I didn't get that opportunity growing up fast. But what I did get is the knowledge on how to remodel, how to do tile, how to lay floors, how to frame up, extra bedrooms and stuff like that. That stuff is, you don't need a license to do that stuff. You just need good,
Have you been lucky finding guys that for like electricians and like the specific trades? I mean, or do you run into the same problem everybody else does?
It's the same thing. Like you try and find good people, but money corrupts people.
Yes.
And I think that's also what sets us apart is like I'm not a lover of money. I enjoy having money to have the freedoms and pay the bills, but I don't sit around and worship money.
Right.
Like if it comes, it comes, but
Well, you need it. I mean, you have to have
yeah,
it. Like it's
for
it's a
sure.
necessary thing. You got to pay bills. You got to live,
Yeah,
but it doesn't need to be all consuming.
for sure. And
Yeah.
you'll find a lot of contractors, a lot of people that they'll give you outrageous prices like that person. There's no sense in charging someone 40, 50 grand more than what it
Yeah.
actually cost you
Yeah.
just because you're being greedy.
Yeah.
Like it's really tough. A lot of people are greedy and their workmanship doesn't even match up to their greediness.
Yeah.
So, for us, we try to keep our prices as fair as possible. I
Yeah.
want to make a fair paycheck.
Mhm.
I want to make the homeowner happy that they didn't fork out, thousands of extra dollars on top of everything. And I hate cheating people
Yeah.
because I'm a person.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want someone cheating me, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to cheat somebody.
Yeah.
So
Well, what happens, and this happens in all walks of life too, is you guys are able to keep things reasonable and within a certain range because you physically do the work yourself.
that's true.
You and Kevin are
Yeah.
out there. It's just the two of you, and you guys are doing the work.
Hmm.
And when companies start to expand and grow a little bit, then they start adding layers of people. They
Yes.
have a manager, they have a
Mhm.
general contractor, they have the laborers, they have everybody involved. So the cost starts going up. And
For
then
sure.
once they start getting into sourcing the materials, because that's always been something too that as somebody that doesn't know much about it, I look at it and go, okay, well, if I went to wherever, Home Depot or Lowe's, and I bought some of the materials that I needed for a job, I'm going to pay retail for it, right? Which
Mhm.
may be a little bit higher. And maybe you can get a little bit better pricing because a particular group they order in bulk on different things, whether it be lumber or, screws or whatever it is, drywall. You can maybe get a little bit better pricing on stuff, but then also some of them I think are going to add their margin to it as well. So
For sure.
if the company, it costs them $100 to say buy a piece of lumber or whatever, well, and it would cost me 150 maybe to get it myself, well, they're going to charge me 125, right? So there's an extra a little cushion built
Mhm.
in there on some of that. And one of the things that you guys do, and I don't know if this is typical or not, you can tell me, but I feel like more often than not, y'all are like, hey, you get the materials and, not everything, but the bulk of what you need, we'll install it, and that's going to save you a ton of money.
We're definitely different than a lot of people. A lot of people can get a little bit more ahead in life, charging a little extra for material, which is every situation is going to be different. I can't speak for people that have a ton of employees,
Sure.
people that,
Yeah, there's a lot of
and
layers to it. Yeah.
but for us, a two-man team running a smaller remodeling company, we find it easier and less stressful to let the homeowners pick out what they want because we're very different. I care about the homeowner. I am such a terrible salesman. I cannot sell someone something and make them pay way more for it. I'm a
Yeah.
terrible salesman.
Yeah.
I'm like, why would you do that? It only costs this much.
Yeah.
And and it probably sucks for me. That's why I'm not a great salesman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we keep getting work because of, just our integrity and things, but
Well, you
definitely
did
not
that for
because
us. You
yeah.
on the house we did it for Cedar Creek. We had remodeled a garage, a freestanding garage into like a suite essentially, and we had to put a bathroom in there. And there was no pre-existing plumbing. There was nothing there. So it was one of two. Well, it was like we're gonna have to cut into the concrete in order to install to run from the house to do whatever. And you're like, well, I mean, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And you ended up what we did was we raised the floor of the bathroom essentially. So there's a little bit of a step up from the suite area into the bathroom, and then we didn't have to jackhammer up anything.
Yeah, for
And you
sure.
ran the concrete under, or excuse me, the plumbing under the flooring, and it worked great. And it was like a third of the cost that it was going to be otherwise.
For sure. And maybe that's why we don't grow as fast as some other companies because I'm such a terrible salesman.
Yeah.
But I always think, and this is the way my mind works, I think about the other person. I think about the homeowner. I think about their experience. I think about the amount of money and budget that they have. Like if I had someone come to my house and, you know, didn't give me options, because not everybody has $1 million sitting around,
Yeah.
but people, middle class people, lower class people, they want to have nice things. They
Sure.
want to be able to remodel their home.
Yeah.
And it'd be unfair for me to charge every person or to think of every person as someone who has a ton of money sitting aside to remodel their home. And the way I think about it, it's like, okay, I look at the situation at hand, I look at, you know, where we're at. And I'm like, okay, well, like if you want to save money, we'll do it right. But these are some of the options that you could do.
Sure.
There's not always a one option and that's it.
Yeah.
And but that's probably why we're, stay a little bit smaller. I have a hard time cheating people. I just can't do it.
Well, what you're doing is you're giving them choices to have lower cost options if they need it, because and what that does, I think, more than anything, is it endears you to folks, right? Because if you're going to come in, because again, most people that do this type of stuff, they're trying to sell you more, not sell you less,
For sure.
right? And I could even see from your point of view, you're like, okay, I could sell you an extra $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is worth of work, right? But that's also going to tie up an extra 2 or 3 days for me, right? Or I can tell you, hey, look, I know this is what you want to do, but here's the cost, which might be a little bit outside what your budget on what you want to do. If we did this, it would kind of accomplish the same stuff, but it would cost a little less, and then also doesn't take you as long to do it either. So then you can move on to the next job.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. We love keeping the jobs rolling, instead
Yeah.
of getting tied up just for a little bit more money. Why not finish this project and then go into another big project?
Well, that's a short-sighted thing. I think a lot of business owners is in your world and even in my world to some extent do, is that we get short-sighted on making money off one particular project, right? One particular loan, one particular remodel. Like you're trying to make every nickel you can make off that deal, right?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it going, I am going to make what I need to make on this, but I'm going to do it so well, and I'm going to do such a good job, and I'm going to give these people, such great service and a good value that they're going to refer me to 20 other people. And then that's going to continue to build my business. So I don't have to strain for every nickel out of this one. And you've done it. I've not necessarily with us per se, because I was like, no. But you have come in before and said, hey, look, we got this part wrong. It's costing us to do it, but we didn't catch that. So, we're going to eat it on this. And I think that's awesome, because most people are like, oh no, this is what it is. But if you genuinely felt like you missed it and it was a part of the project that you did not put in there, then within reason, obviously, you've taken the hit on those before, but that's all in the name of, I want to make sure that when I finish this job, that this customer thinks I'm the best thing that walked through this door, because they're going to tell 15 other people about
For sure. Our name is everything with our business.
Yeah.
And if we taint our name or ruin it in any way, that stops us from, growing. That stops us from our name getting out there. Because I don't want anyone to say, well, they did something wrong and yet they charged us for it. And, I'm not going to refer them. Like if I ever genuinely make a mistake, and we're human, we do.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going to own up to it.
Yeah.
That's my mistake. I'll pay for it out of my pocket.
Yeah.
We'll fix it. We'll get this homeowner happy and in their, whatever they remodel, and get them loving it. And we'll move on, and we'll keep our name where it is. We've yet to have a bad review, yet to have a bad job.
Yeah.
Not a single one.
Yeah.
And we love that. We pride ourselves from being like a 5-star company.
Yeah.
We might not have a ton of reviews, but it's so hard getting homeowners to write reviews. If anyone's listening, write reviews for your contractors, please. Because I have asked, I think we've got, X amount of reviews on our website and stuff like that, but we've done hundreds of jobs.
Yes.
And they're like, hey, I'll write you a review. And I'm like, sitting at home waiting for the review.
We'll chat about that afterwards. I'll help you with that. But what do you think? So if someone's looking at a new house, like they're going to purchase, right? And everybody gets inspections, they have come through and, get everything checked out. What do you think, as a new homeowner going into a house, are some things that you really need to look out for to make sure that you don't have stuff bite you later on down the road?
For sure. I think where we are now in society with all these flippers, all of this, COVID came through, and now everybody became a flipper.
Right.
And which is very frustrating for people that are actually like in the business, because you've got people that are just painting over stuff.
Right.
I gave an estimate the other day, and this flipper painted over the light switches. And I'm like, those are like 35 cents. You couldn't spend 35 cents. You had to paint over. So don't get caught up in just the cosmetics.
Right.
You go in, it's like, oh, this looks so good. I love this, because it's easy to get wrapped into, you want to move, you want a new place, you want to start, something different for your family. But you got to be careful. Get the inspections 100%. If you have to pay a little bit more to have, like if you found a house, and you're like, I love this house, spend the extra money to make sure things are right.
Yeah.
Get someone in there to look at it before you buy the house.
Even new homes, even brand new
Even new
homes.
homes.
Yeah.
Get it inspected thoroughly. Look at the electrical. You don't want to have to move into a home or an older home and all of a sudden you need a whole new panel box
Yeah.
because it's so outdated and old that it's a fire hazard.
Yeah.
The plumbing, if you have to pay, if you're in love with this house and you want to make sure everything's sound and you got to pay a plumber $500, it's worth $500 before you buy the house than $20,000 after.
Yeah.
Make sure things are draining. Look
Yeah.
at the roof. Get a roof inspector out there. Is that roof okay? Make sure there's no leaks, because those are your big money. And most people that are listening know that those are your big money spenders.
Sure.
It's going to be the roof. It's going to be the plumbing. It's going to be the electrical. Cosmetics is normally a lot cheaper than those major things.
Right.
So those are some of the things that make sure you look out for before you. I've so many horror stories where people were caught up in the flip or the cosmetics of things,
Right.
bought the house, and now they've got all these underlying issues that they didn't see before.
Right.
Foundation, that's another huge one. If you're walking into a house and you see cracks above the doors, make sure you get the foundations checked out because, Texas, obviously in Texas, almost every house has foundation issues, but make sure that that it's been taken care of because foundation is another 10, 20 grand to get it, and that's money that a lot of people don't have, especially after the market's so high right now, going into a house, spending a little bit more than you were expecting to turn around and spend even more.
Yeah.
So,
well, these days, there's, one of the great things about the market and what has happened over the last several years is that appreciation from what someone paid for their house to what it's worth now has just gone up dramatically. And another side problem or whatever you want to call it that's occurred from that as well is that with rates going up like they have, with mortgage interest rates going up, people that bought their home with a 2 or 3% interest rate, they really have zero desire to move if they don't have to,
For
right?
sure.
Because then you're going to sell your house. You may make some good equity on it or you may have to make a good profit on it, but you're going to buy another house at a higher price and you're going to have a high interest rate for at least a period of time until they go back down. So, but what that leaves people's desire, because instead of moving, now they're saying, well, we're going to stay here. We're not going anywhere. And we have all this equity available. We want to do some work on our house to upgrade it, to improve it. From your experience, what do you think are the things? I know obviously bathrooms, but what else do you think really adds value to a house that's going to not just be for the person that's living there, but that everybody looks at going forward, just based on your customer experience?
I would say that a cheap option that changes your look of your house dramatically is paint and flooring.
Okay.
If they make tons of affordable flooring now, luxury vinyl planks, whether you want to do tile in the bathrooms, whatever you want to do, for people that are staying in their house and, because we've had a couple of people that were looking to buy a house and then, like you said, they run into all these crazy rates and stuff. They're like, well, let me just stay in my home. Even if they take out a little bit of equity to pour back into it, there's nothing wrong with that because, their
home prices keep going up. They're not going
they're
down.
going up. So they're like, well, let me just take out, put a little bit of money back into my home and get it the way I like it, update it, make it feel new to me again. Flooring is huge. A lot of times you can get in and get your whole house floored in 3-4 days. Get in, paint things, stuff like that. Paint the kitchen cabinets. That'll make them look brand new.
Do you see people painting their exterior a lot?
I do.
Yeah.
A lot of brick homes we painted over. People are changing up, and it's very cost efficient. It's if you want a whole new look and make it look like a brand new house
and not spend
it's easy. I mean, and not spend a ton of money. Just paint that exterior of your house, paint the trim, and it will really look like a new home to you.
There's been I think there's going to be a pickup now over the next 12, 24 months. You guys should probably get pretty busy because I do think there's more and more people that are, because they're not moving, they're going to stay where they're at, but they're going to want to do all these different types of upgrades. And I think we're probably in a little bit better position now. I don't know. You could tell me as far as like supplies of materials now.
Yes.
Are you running into situations where it's getting a little bit easier to get things in? You're not having to wait as long. Is that
it is? It's getting easier.
Are you seeing the costs of materials going down too?
I have, yeah. So we were pretty much sky high, especially kind of during the period where we were doing y'all's lake house and everything. Everything was sky high, and we were really trying not to cheat people then. And
but you only do what you can do in those situations.
And it was expensive. Wood has been going down. It's definitely not like it was.
Yeah.
But it's still pretty pricey. What I have seen is bathrooms have stayed consistent through it
Really?
all.
Okay.
Tile has been around that $2 to $2.50, $2.75 a square foot.
Uh-huh.
Hardy board stayed around $10, $11. It's bathrooms have pre-made vanities and stuff like that. The labor of custom cabinetry,
Right.
a lot of that stuff is going up
Right.
because wood was going up so much higher. But for some reason, like, tile and flooring and stuff like that, that kind of stayed the same. But I have noticed that availability we're back to where, it's easier to get things,
Yeah.
easier to get. Some stuff's a little harder than others. For a while, we couldn't even find LVL beams, so we had to put an iron beam in this house to open up the concept. And then now we did another job, and it was like, we got LVLs, and I was like, oh my gosh. But so it is easier. So for people that are looking to start doing stuff to their home, prices are coming down.
Right.
So labor prices and bids should reflect that more than they were 2 years ago.
Right.
So
at least the cost of materials.
For sure.
The problem with the labor is, like you said, and it's the same issue with everything, is it's hard to find good people.
For sure.
And there might be, when you go out there and you look for somebody who is, and I say that, but you guys are quite a bit cheaper than most. So I was gonna say, when you find somebody that's significantly cheaper, you got to be careful and watch out for it. But I also would say that you guys are pretty, but I also think y'all are unicorns. So I don't think you're the norm by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure. I
So
would say we're middle of the pack, because we think of the homeowner. So we don't want the stress as a smaller company trying to make money on top of materials. I don't want to go home and spend all night shopping when I
Yeah.
could spend that with my wife and my daughter. Like,
Right.
I don't want that.
Right.
I'm definitely more of a family man than I am a businessman.
Uh-huh.
My family comes first, and
Yeah.
my business is second.
As it should.
So for me, I'm not trying to work night and day to get ahead. I really do feel like, the Lord blesses me and blesses our company and constantly brings in work where I'm not having to strive as much.
Yeah.
But I am thankful, that we don't have to get ahead by cheating. We
Yeah.
get ahead because
Just
we
working
do
hard.
good work.
Yes.
So, but a lot of companies, like you were saying earlier, they charge a little bit more than we would because they don't do the work.
Right.
They're subbing everything out. Me and Kevin love work. I have nothing against work, and I
Probably
can't
prefer it, right?
I can't sit at home. I
Yeah.
will go crazy.
Yes.
So why not just go to work? I'm
That's
be
right.
working anyways
That's
on
right.
something.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the great thing about what you guys do too is at the end of the day, you've accomplished something,
Mhm.
and you have something to show for it. And there was a study that they did recently about looking for people that were the happiest in their profession. Like, take money and everything out of it, just content with
Mhm.
what they did. And on both ends of the spectrum, there were the least happiest people in their jobs were people like me that worked in money and finance,
Yeah.
and the most happy people in their jobs were farmers, because they were out there working, doing the labor, doing the work, having there's a certain amount of, I've got to manufacture it myself physically every day by riding a bike and walking and getting out there and getting exercise going, because I got to get my blood going. I got to get my blood pumping. And if I have a day like yesterday, I was lazy. I woke up, took my daughter to school. I usually go do walking around in the morning. I didn't. I walked later in the day, but I didn't ride my bike. And the whole day I was just like in a shit mood. Like, I was just not in a good mood. And then I got back in my routine today, and I feel so much better, because once you get your body moving and you're physically doing things, whatever it may be, there's just a sense of accomplishment, and the anxiety and all the other stuff kind of goes away when you have that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we love keeping busy because, they say the same thing about working out. All the endorphins that
Yeah.
get sent through
It's
your
the same
body
thing.
because you're moving. You're feeling like you're accomplishing something,
Yes.
and just staying busy. So we enjoy that. Our prices show that because we're actually doing the work, so we're able to charge a little less. But I guess before we start wrapping up, that's one thing, since we're talking about like being involved, for anyone out there that is getting remodeling done to their house and they have a contractor that's subbing out a lot of work, make sure that contractor stays involved.
Right.
Because we have done multiple jobs where we've come to fix things, or come because they don't want the contractor anymore because they're never there.
Right.
So just be careful and stay on top of things. Make sure that contractor is, involved.
Yeah.
But
Well, man, we're at an hour now, so it goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does go.
I appreciate you coming in, and I can't recommend you guys enough to everybody because I do think you have incredible work. Your name, All Integrity, definitely is reflective of your work and who you guys are. I think you're great human beings, and anytime we ever have jobs, you are the absolute only first person, nobody else that we will call to get stuff done. So you're gonna be hopefully doing some stuff in my office eventually once we get all my materials worked out. I got to own issues in here, but thanks for coming by, man. I really do appreciate it. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Not really. Just
You want to tell them how to get in touch with you?
yeah. If y'all, if anybody out there is watching want any remodeling done, just give us a call. You can check us out on. We have a Facebook page and we have a website at All Integrity Remodeling LLC. So
We'll put it in the comments
yeah,
too.
yeah,
So
we'll put
everybody
it in there so y'all can click on it and just check out our work, check out the reviews, and give us a call for anything.
Yeah.
And we're the type of people that if you call us out there and we don't know how to do it, we won't waste your time.
Yeah.
We'll tell you that we can't do it.
Yeah.
So that way we save everybody.
Yeah.
But we would love to come check out what work you need done and see if it's something that we could do and work together with you.
Awesome. All right, brother. Are you going? You're a baseball fan? You excited about opening day, or you more ready to go fishing?
I would rather go play golf.
We're good. Good. All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming by, and we'll see everybody next week. Y'all take care.